Howdy, folks. Spencer here, and today I want to talk to you about the Looming Threats event. Specifically, I want to take a look at the corrections and changes Cryptic made to it after I did my initial announcement video last week. Then I want to go through and take another look at the rewards now that we have some pictures of the tooltips at least, so we have an idea of what they actually do. And lastly, I want to go through and look at the different options we have to get the daily progression for this event and show you which of those is going to be the quickest for you to go through and do each day. As always, chapters are listed down below if you want to skip ahead to any specific topic. The first thing I want to take a look at are the corrections and changes that were made to the initial blog. So, as some of you may recall when I talked about this event last week, the blog at the time indicated that doing a TFO would only net you one of the 2 points of progression each day. So, you would have needed, per the initial version of the blog, to have done 2 TFOs a day to get your daily progression here. Thankfully, that was a typo that was corrected, I think, while I was uploading the video, and I did put a pinned comment out once I learned that the blog had been corrected, but I just wanted to clarify for those of you that hadn't seen that they had changed that indeed TFOs are going to be rewarding 2 points each, as we would normally have with these types of events. And sure enough, if you go in game and you look at the event window in the journal, you'll see that each of the TFO options will net you 2 points of progression. And the patrols still both net just 1 point per, but that's how it's always been when patrols are part of these types of events. So just wanted to clarify that and make sure you were all aware that they did not nerf TFO progression for events. That was just a typo on the blog, which you sort of got to expect from blogs at this point. And now I want to go through and take a look at the rewards here. And the 4 pieces of this set that you get from the event are the Omni Beam, the Shield, and then a Warp and Singularity Core. The other part of this set is a console, and that console is a reward from the new mission, Wish Upon a Star. So that console you can get whenever. It's just these other parts of the set that you either have to do this event to get, or you have to wait 1 to 2 years for them to be put into the Muds or Phoenix store. And given how they've done it recently, it's probably just going to be going into the Mud store. So if you miss this event, this is going to be a fairly expensive set to get long term, along with the needing to wait potentially, 1 to 2 years. So let's start off with the Omni Beam here. The special thing about this is that it supposedly shares the equip limit with crafted and weapon pack Omni Beams. So if that interpretation I have is correct, you should be able to use this alongside another set Tetrion Omni Beam. Could be wrong there, but that's what I'm interpreting that text as on the blog, and they never went through and changed it. It's been about a week now, so I assume that is correct. And the special thing for this, outside of that, is that it has a proc on it, which has a chance to create a Tholian Warp Crystal. These Tholian Warp Crystals will deal 12.2k damage to foes that collide with them, and if an ally collides with it, then it grants the ally some secondary shields for 20 seconds. I'm not too sure how these Tholian Warp Crystals are actually going to perform. The numbers that I've seen so far don't seem like they're that substantial, but we'll probably know more about those once myself and others actually have this set to fully test the warp crystals later this month. Now, for the shield here, it's the fully enhanced EAC shield. This shield has a special ability on it, which is that when your shields are below 25% and you take damage, then it will trigger the Tholian Enhanced EAC shield, which will grant you some secondary shielding for 20 seconds. That can only be triggered once every 45 seconds. This is extremely underwhelming in my opinion. Even if you're like trying to do a survivability build, I just don't see why you would slot this. Secondary shields are incredibly weak, and to me, I would rather run the Discovery shield, the Discovery Reputation shield. I think you'd be better off running that, especially with another part of that set for its two-piece, which gives quite a bit of hull regen. I just think that would be a lot better for survivability than some secondary shields. And then for the core here and the warp core and singularity core, remember these things are basically the exact same, just that one goes on Romulan ships and the other doesn't. And one of the things here that was drawing a bit of attention was the hull capacity boost, which is going to give you 0.5% extra hull capacity per shield power. Now, what I failed to realize when I was talking about this last week is we already have a warp core that does that. That warp core is the Discovery Reputation warp core, the mycelial one. So that also has the exact same 0.5% hull capacity boost per shield power. So, you factor in that I'm already recommending the shield from the Disco rep. Like, if you're looking for a survivability combo here, that Disco, Warp Core, and Shield are incredibly powerful. That they're the meta option right now for a reason. That two-piece gives you 120% hull regen. So I'm just not really that impressed by the Shield or Core so far. Now, the other effect that the Core has is that upon defeating an enemy, it will create 1 to 2 Tholian Warp Crystals. And again, I haven't seen any performance metrics so far for the warp crystals. I've seen a couple in action, but didn't really look that impressive. But maybe when they're on a properly built out ship, they'll do something, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. So overall, like for the actual pieces here, I'm not really that impressed by the core or the shield here. The Omni Beam looks fine. And I think for many of you, that Omni Beam alone is going to be worth, going through and completing this event. And moving on to the set bonuses here, the two-piece is really interesting, and this is what really makes the set worth grinding for, in my opinion. So the two-piece, which I think most of you would do probably the console and the Omni Beam to get, will net you 9.1% crit chance to Tetrion weapons, and 3.1 crit severity. Now, I will not be surprised to see that this is maybe flipped around. It's weird that you're getting more crit chance than severity. I don't know if there's some scaling aspect of it that's wrong, or if they just have these swapped around. But even if this ends up being swapped around and it's 3% crit chance and 9 severity, I think that's still pretty good for Tetrion for running a console and an Omni Beam. So as is, given that it's giving 9% crit chance for Tetrion, I think that's pretty good for the two-piece there. But remember, that's explicitly for Tetrion weapons. It won't do anything for your phasers or disruptors. The three-piece is going to add a chance to all of your Tetrion weapons to create a Tholian Warp Crystal. And the four-piece has a clicky and passive effect. The clicky effect on the four-piece is going to make all of those warp crystals start chasing enemies rather than just sitting still. And it will also improve the three-piece of the set, where it's increasing the chance for you to generate Tholian warp crystals when firing Tetrion weapons. So I think the set is a neat concept. And it's really going to come down to how effective those warp crystals are for the 3 and 4 piece. I think the 2 piece of the console and the Omni Beam would make sense on a Tetrion build, especially given the current values of 9% crit chance, which again, I think the crit chance and severity may be flipped around. Could be wrong there, so just know that before you go and like rush and buy this or whatever. But I think the 2 piece, regardless, is worth grinding for. The 3 and 4 piece, it's questionable value. Have to wait and see how these warp crystals actually perform. I don't have a ton of hope for them, but I could be surprised. So that's going to be a wait and see there. And I'll be again talking about that stuff near the end of the month once I actually have the set myself. And the last thing I want to talk about in this video are the different options we have for completing the Looming Threats event and which one is the best. So you've got a couple different options here. You've got the new mission, the Wish Upon a Star episode. Now, I talked about this in the last video, but I'll just remind you guys that you can go through and play the episode one day, But if you know you're going to be playing some of this other content, what you can do is at the end of the episode, when you're at the dialogue where it gives you the option to go through and complete the mission and get the rewards, just close out of that window and leave the map, and you can save that completion for another day. And then if you have a day where you're just not really able to log in and do much, you can just go to the journal window or the contact up at the top right here and turn the mission in then and get your 2 points. It'll give you that 2 points whenever you turn the mission in. So if you're going to be doing a bunch of TFOs one day alongside doing the mission, maybe just save that mission turn in for the next day or something, so that you don't have to go through and do anything the next day. Now, the TFO options here are the Leviathan TFO, which is the new one, then Azure Nebula Rescue, Days of Doom, and Vault Ensnared. Vault Ensnared takes a bit of time. Days of Doom can be very frustrating in a pug environment and can easily take a bit of time. Azure is pretty much a fixed, 12 minutes, something like that. So pretty static 12 minutes there. And then the new Leviathan TFO, well, this can be completed somewhat fast if you have a good team. The issue is if you're going into just a public queue for it, which most of you probably would, right? It's going to be painful. When I did this on stream the other day, it took 14, 15 minutes, and I've heard people talking about having runs over 20 minutes already. So it's entirely reliant on how good your team is, and I would probably avoid it for getting your daily progression done, because people don't know what they're doing in there, and a bad team can easily make it a very long and painful experience where you have to run around the map and do everything for them. Now, the better options, in my opinion, are the patrols. And there's 2 new patrols. Each has a normal and hard option. Normal and hard, the only difference is basically what enemies you're going up against. So we've got the Jupiter Gauntlet patrol here, which is basically just a DPS map. And I'm going to be talking more about this TFO in the near future, but if you have a high DPS build, you can get through this insanely fast. The other patrol here is Bringers of War, and this is basically part of the Synthwave TFO that you get to do on your own, specifically the part where you go around and rescue people from the ships and all that. So that can also be done fast. I think you can do it in 3 to 4 minutes, but if you're looking for some content that can be done fairly quickly, which also has interactions and is more than just raw DPS output, then that patrol may be the best option for you, especially given that it can just be done solo without a team. But Jupiter Gauntlet is definitely the winner if you're looking to get everything done as fast as possible. So I'm going to cut now to some footage of me going through and doing this on normal, and I think you'll see the point as to why I'm recommending you just do that patrol. Okay, so when you're starting up the Jupiter Gauntlet patrol here, you have 2 different ways you can do it. You can start it up through the event window here. It'll give you that selection. But I would recommend that you do it instead through the operations window and the patrol tab, so that you make sure that you're on the correct difficulty. Just do this on normal. You really don't get any extra rewards doing it on advanced or elite. So just do it on normal so that you can get through it as quickly as possible. So set to normal difficulty, and I'm going to go to Jupiter Gauntlet normal. And you will see that this can be completed very fast. This is entirely going to depend on what your DPS and skill level are. If you have a high DPS AoE build like Cannon Scatter Volley, you're going to get through this in as fast as 30 seconds. But if you're on a Beam Overload build, those builds don't generally have as much DPS output, so that could take you a little bit longer. And once you do this a couple times, you get used to where they spawn in, so that'll certainly help make this a little bit faster. There we go. So that took 32 seconds, and you would just have to do that twice to get your progression. So you can do this patrol twice, right back to back. There's no cooldown on it for the duration of this event. And you can literally just go in with a high DPS build, clear it that quickly, and go right back in. So if you have a solid build, you can get the daily done for this event in honestly under 2 minutes. You just do that patrol twice back to back, and you'll have your progression done. So again, my recommendation is for those of you that want to get this event done as quickly as possible each day, to go through and do the Jupiter Gauntlet patrol on normal difficulty. Make sure it's set to normal at the bottom left here. Just do that twice in a row, and you'll be done very, very fast. So that is my tip to y'all, and let me know how quickly you get through that. If you get it under 30 seconds, drop a comment down below. I think long term, on a little bit of a different topic here, but I think long term we'll probably be looking at adding this Jupiter Gauntlet patrol to a DPS table at some point. Might be a little bit out because we're not going to be able to do that on an SCM, but I think that this is a really great solo map to go through and do. And even on advanced or elite, it's really fun to go through and do solo because there's no time gate to it. It is just a matter of how quickly your build can go through the enemies. So it's a really nice map. Definitely take advantage of it, and take advantage of it for this event, because I know how frustrating the event grind can be for people, and they have given us such a good option for this event with Jupiter Gauntlet. That's it for today's video. Thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. More content is incoming from the latest update here, including a guide on the new Leviathan TFO, so hopefully people can understand how to go through that a bit better, because the pug experience of that so far has been extremely painful. Thanks again for watching, and see you guys around.